Welcome back. Greek letters, the last episode, letter buddies. Letters that belong together and that together they do something special that the individual letters cannot do. So here we go. Here is the list. Don't be scared. We will go through them one by one. The first one that we need to talk about is the B. And, the Greek language doesn't have a B because the letter that would be the B, as you have learned in the previous episodes, and go back if you're not sure, this B has become a V. And so the letter B is already occupied. So how do the Greeks actually write the sound B? They decided to put an M and a P together to create the B. So this is what's happening here. We have the MP, which is a B. The next one, similar story, the D, because the delta, which would naturally be at the position where the other Latin languages have a D, the delta is already used for the sound, which is the English TH sound of the or that. And so the delta is not available anymore to be a D, but we still needed the sound D, and therefore the sound has been reconstructed by putting together the N and the T, which seems to suggest a similar sound, right? So nd, nt is close to what a D would be. So here are some examples of that, and you will see that there are actually two different ways to pronounce it. You can tend to separate the N and the T from each other and have an NT pronunciation, or you can really have a full D where the two letters are not separate, but they produce a new sound together. And you see this in words like Andonis down here. Andonis is a name, Anton, Anthony, but this Andonis, it's very much separated, the N and the T. You wouldn't say Adonis, you would say Andonis. And the same is true of Pandu. Pandu means everywhere. While something like domata, tomato, has a real D at the beginning, domata. This does not separate the NT. So there's a range of pronunciations. This is partly historical, so when there is a syllable break between them, like Andonis or Pandu, then you separate the two. Sometimes they are together because, like domata, it's a foreign word that has a D sound, and so there is no reason to separate the two. And finally, with the consonants, we have the G. Again, the same story, the sound G, which is something you have in give or go. And again, we don't have a letter for that because the gamma, which would naturally fit this sound best, is already used for the G sound. And so when they needed another, a G, which is this hard G, then they needed to make it up from other letters. And so there are two different ways of creating this. One is to use the gamma twice. So gamma then is always pronounced G. And the other is the gamma kappa, the gamma with the K after it. And this also then becomes one combination that is pronounced G. We will see examples of this in a moment. Again, there is no difference in pronunciation between the one G and the other G. Both are G. And the only reason why we have two different ones is historical, etymological. Some words naturally have evolved to have a two gamma G, and the others have evolved to have a gamma kappa G. So just ignore the difference. Just pronounce it always like a hard G, as in give or go. Now we come to some vowel sounds. The U is the first one, is an obvious thing that's missing in Greek because there is no U, something that resembles the U. For example, the small y is an E sound. So we don't actually have an U sound. As also in English, you kind of not have an U sound because the U, which should be the sound, is sometimes used as a U, is sometimes used as an A. And so often in English, when you want to write U, you also use a two-letter combination OO, like in moon or in mood. And the Greeks are doing the same, only they are using O and the Y, the Y. So O and Y together is a combination that's pronounced U. And so here we have the rest of the vowels. These are also very, very common. You find them in almost every sentence in some way. The Alpha iota is an E. And again, we have another E, which is the epsilon. So historical reasons, as always, this is also an E. And the most common occurrence of this is in the word ne, which means yes. So ne, you could obviously write also with ni epsilon, but you don't do that. The correct way to write it is ni alpha iota, but it is pronounced ne. There is no difference between this and an epsilon in the way you pronounce it. Then we have the epsilon iota, which is an E, and this is also very, very common. So a key, for example, over there contains this E, and there are many other words. Iche, he had or she had. Iche, this E is also like that. So this is again very common. And the last one, also very common, is the Omicron iota, which again is an E. We talked about these 5 different E's already. So here are some more examples of that. Afti, for example, they. So when you say they have something, then this is afti. And this afti has an Omicron iota at the end. And also the Omicron iota itself is an article for the first person plural. So if you say their man over there, you would say I Andres. And this I at the beginning, which means the for the first person plural, is an Omicron iota. Now, two we did not talk about are the af and the f, and you see them here. The af is a combination of alpha and epsilon, but it's not pronounced I, it's pronounced either av or af with a voiced or a voiceless v after the a. And the f, again, is pronounced ev or f. It has two possibilities. And this is also pretty common. The av, for example, you find in words like avro, which means egg, avro. And this is written with alpha epsilon. And the epsilon is found also in very common words like efcharisto or efchi. Efcharisto means thank you. Efchi is the wish. So these are also very common. Now let's go do some exercises. I will put these words up here, and now you start first. You read these words first, and then I tell you how they are pronounced. Try to read the first one, which means tomorrow. We just talked about it. It's the alpha epsilon combination. Avril, tomorrow. The next one under it, anef. Anef. This is an old word. It's not used very often in modern Greek, but you still find it sometimes in more formal speech. This means without. The next one under it is mu. Mu means me or mine, and the same we have in the next line. Try again, but there is a second one at the end that you need to take care of. Urani. Urani means the skies, plural, urani. And you see in the beginning you have an U. At the end you have an E. The Omicron iota is an E. Try the next line. This should be easy now. IKEA. IKEA. So you see you cannot separate the two E's just from listening to them. There is no difference in pronunciation. IKEA, again, is an oldish word that means house or home. Ikos is an ancient Greek word that means house. The next one on the top right, try to pronounce that. Balla means ball. Next one. Andio. Andio. Goodbye. Next one. Fengari. 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 You hear the G, which means moon. And the next one. Angonas. Angonas means elbow. And finally, the name of a country that includes two of these features. Ungaria. 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 you see, is an U at the beginning and a G afterwards, and this means, obviously, Hungary. So one last thing, when you have a tone on a letter combination like these, the tone always goes onto the second letter of the combination. So in this case of Avrio, for example, it goes on the Y, Avrio, tomorrow, or when you have Urani, it goes on the Iota of the Omicron Iota combination. The only reason why it would go to the first of the two letters is if you want to separate them. So sometimes the word has a different meaning. It does contain this combination accidentally, but it's not meant to be a combination. It's perhaps a foreign word that has been imported to Greek, and it has a syllable break between these two letters, and you have to separate them. And so if you want to separate them and you want to emphasize that this now is not a combination, but they are to be read separately, then you would perhaps put the tone on the first one if it belongs there. And this indicates that they have to be separated. But normally, if they are not separate, then you would always put the tone mark on the second letter. Okay, and here is what we learned today. A quick review: the B sound, MP, the D sound, MT, two different versions of exactly the same sound, G, which is the gamma gamma and gamma kappa. We have the U, like in mood, which is the Omicron epsilon. We have the alpha iota, which is an E. We have the epsilon iota and the Omicron iota, which are both E, indistinguishable in pronunciation, like E, distinguishable in. Then you have the AF and the EV, which can be AF or AV, and they can be F or EV. And this again depends on the word. There's no way to knowing in advance which one you have, but you have to memorize which is which. Okay, that's all for today. See you in the next one, where we will practice reading lots of different words so you can get used to the Greek alphabet that you now learned completely. Thank you and see you there. Bye-bye.